Hey guys, my name is Zach.
I'm Ian.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Joost.
Welcome to this bonus episode of Collecting Weekly. It's a weekly podcast where my friends and I talk about the things that matter the most to us this week in collecting. We are joined again by Joost, the man, the myth, the legend, the owner of Jazz Inc Dioramas. And we are here to talk about some of the amazing products that you're working on. You've had several updates in the last few weeks on some big projects, a little bit of big news about some of those big projects. But before we get into that, do you want to plug your business? Talk a little bit about what you do for people that might not be super familiar with Jazz Inc Dioramas.
Oh, okay. Well, very briefly, it's a hobby that got out of hand with me and my dad. My eldest son and my wife also take part in it. We do it part-time, and we basically, I'm thinking of renaming it to the Collectors Collective, because what we do is we make what the community wants that the big guys don't make, basically. So like the Batmobile, the cockpits. We're now working on the Iron Scavenger you might have seen in the very first official Marvel Spider-Man movie. Basically, anything that the community is really crying out for that isn't coming. I'm talking to someone. We're working on a conversion kit for the DeLorean to be able to do it for an episode 2, an episode, make it turn your DeLorean into an episode 2 and episode 3 DeLorean.
Ian's just had a moment there.
Yep, yep, that's it. Yep, that's me. I love
you
that.
Asked it, right? You asked me.
Yeah.
You asked me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's in the works. I got my DeLorean. It's still not unboxed. I didn't have the time. I got it today.
Oh, nice.
So I got one. I got the dock you have behind you, still not unboxed, and a Marty, and we're working on a kit. So yeah, there's stuff. If you guys have a good idea, and there's enough support, basically that's what we do. We're the production and R&D department for the community.
So I think it goes without saying my name will be put down for that.
He's first on the list.
Yeah. Real quick,
was that you, Pete? The name that wants to be put down?
Unfortunately, I don't have a DeLorean. Put Ian first.
Okay. Okay.
Someone said the stream is not playing on YouTube. I pulled it up just fine. I would maybe recommend restarting your YouTube app, but it seems to be working fine. I got a lot of comments from YouTube, so if there are any stream issues, please let us know. But yeah, that's huge news on the DeLorean. I know I've never seen Ian get so excited when you mentioned on the last time that we had you on that it was a possibility. And I'm sure he's going to be super excited to get it in hand. The big project that you're starting pretty soon here to ship is the obviously the Falcon cockpit diorama.
Yeah.
You posted the other day that you were adding some details because you can in a day and age where companies seem to be cutting corners left and right. Jazz Inc Dioramas going the extra mile for their customers. So what did you add to this diorama that wasn't planned for initially?
Well, there was a couple of upgrades, really. So we added a few more points where there are lights, and then here you can see it. Those two. So the screens, those weren't actually; those were just lights. And yeah, exactly. Now they're screens, and then the center hood on the next picture, the black. I don't know what the ViewMaster. Now we were able to add a screen to that. Now, this is really small in real life. We're looking at what is basically a macro shot right now.
Okay.
So we also upgraded the material for the seats because it's a soft material, but we weren't quite happy with how it ended up in the folds. It didn't look crisp enough, and we're much happier with how these new seats look. Same for the hoses on the back. If you could scroll back a few images, I thought there was an image for the back of the right there on the right. The people didn't love what we did with the hoses, basically on the prototype that we showed around New Year's.
Uh-huh.
So we redid that to something that people seem to enjoy. For many people, don't seem to realize, but you can see it in this picture. The pillows on top. those are removable, so you can display it like you saw with the initial Hot Toys prototype in 2015, which just had the 2 pillows. And then people said, "Oh, it would be cool if you could just make it a complete circle." And we didn't want to take away the option for the people who wanted so now we have both options. Speaking of options, one other thing we added at the 11th hour, I don't know if you have a picture of that, is we've gotten some really good material for the glass on the cockpit canopy. Now, again, this is something that you can you can see an old prototype here, because many people didn't want the glass because the original props didn't have glass because that shoots like crap.
Yeah, it reflects all the light.
Yeah, exactly. So initially we made it removable on the front and the top, but then on the front there was no other way than to do those 2 little screws, and I didn't like that. So now the screws are going to be invisible, and then the glass is just going to be removable on the top. So and it's much less reflective than the stuff we had in December. So there's I'm thinking, I can't think of where you can find a picture of that quite fast, but it's on the Facebook page, I think.
Get it pulled up.
And so you have the glass now as an option. And the one final tweak that we did was we changed the headrests on the passenger seats. Those weren't entirely accurate, and we got some better pictures based on some feedback from the community, because that's all we do really. So the headrests are going to be different on the passenger seats. So those are the most important tweaks that we did in the last month or so. And now it looks like I'll probably be able to ship out the very first one custom built for a customer next week, and maybe a week after, but we're very close to that.
Wow. Yeah,
it's absolutely stunning.
I think you mentioned that there was also a potential for some people at Disney that might be interested to take a look at this for a potential partnership. Did you want to talk about that?
Well, it's very early days, but I did get an email from someone within the company who said that he showed it to his superiors and they really like what we're doing. And well, I would love to partner. Oh, could you keep up this picture, by the way? Yes. And he said basically we're waiting for the whole COVID crap to die down, and then we might talk to you about some sort of partnership. So that had me floating for about a week.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That's huge news. That's
yeah, that is huge, and that is basically a dream. I've been talking to a lot of people I understand this is just me and my dad doing artist copies of something, or copies is not a copy. I mean, it's just a rendition of the stuff we love to do, but we would love to take this to the next level, get it endorsed and get it to a larger audience. That would be the dream. Maybe even quit my day job in the future. I don't know. That would be cool.
Yeah. We had some comments that we'll get to towards the end, but maybe we can just touch on a few of them now. Sean Fear was asking if you were going to add solo sounds to the cockpit diorama.
There is one. I don't know if Sean is a member of my Facebook group, but I basically had them vote and decide. We have 15 sounds on a remote. Though if you have a Windows computer, you can just look at the custom soundboard we made that is inside the base that the cockpit rests on. There's, if you look very closely, you see the vents in the base where the cockpit sits. That's where the speakers are, and exactly. And right behind that, there's the soundboard. You plug in one 12-volt adapter that comes with all the world plugs you need, and that supplies power to all the lights and the sound. And then you can take out, there's a micro SD card in there, and take it out and copy new sounds on it, and it can be a soundboard for anything you want, basically. The only issue I've had on Mac OS is that if you copy sounds to it, it copies a hidden second file, but the player tries to play it. So you basically then you have a sound, and then you have an empty space, and then a sound. So that really doesn't work. Just on a Windows computer, it works perfectly. But to answer Sean's question, sound 14 is sounds from Solo with Mario. The dice hang from the top ceiling. You can just about see some silvery things if you look at the top opening on the window right there. That's where the dice dangle from.
Mhm.
Right there.
Nice.
And you can see the glass is in here. There's just one reflection.
Oh,
Yeah.
And even though it's a circular design that picks up a lot of reflection, and we're just talking about a lot of lights on the ceiling, so we're very happy with the reflectiveness of the glass. One other thing that we fixed that you see in this picture, we hadn't matched the weathering pattern yet on the canopy versus the rest of the cockpit. So if you look at the
I noticed
version,
that a little bit.
yeah. So if you look at the version behind that one has a perfect match, and that's what the front is also going to be.
Yeah,
So that's going to be fixed.
This is insane. I mean, this is mad.
Oh, and one other thing that we added was the slats. What's the proper word around the windows?
The canopy windows, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and so, but there's the little edges around it that are raised versus on the prototype behind there aren't any.
Oh, I see.
raised
These
edges.
are
Yeah.
So what would those be called?
I don't know, the frames, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay, frames, that makes sense.
Mullion. It's a window mullion.
Oof.
Whoa!
So-
All right, here we go. Now there's the
Winner,
term.
winner.
That's from
Yeah.
years and years of being a painter and decorator, having to paint under it. It's a mullion.
Wow.
Right. So we added malleons. Didn't know we did it, but that's what we added.
What a guy. MPJ asks, are there any plans for a 1/12 scale Falcon cockpit, something simple and plain? I know that was also a question that we got in the comments on Auxiliary. Is that something you think you might want to tackle in the future?
I'm torn. Everything we do, I get a question. Can you make it in 1/12 scale? We had that with the white tentative entryway. We did that. It sold very poorly. Then we were more careful with the Justice Mobile because we got a lot of requests for that. We started a list, and we got enough people on the list, but then we opened it up for pre-order. We're only a little bit past a quarter of the people who said they would commit. So the problem is, I understand it's very expensive, especially in relative terms for people in the 1/12 scale community. But since this is such low volume, there's no way I could match the price of a Mattel who makes hundreds of thousands of a piece. So I really want to. I would love to. I mean, it's not that hard. You do have to re-engineer for wall thicknesses, release angles, and all that, but it's easier. And because a lot of this is volume, physical volume, you do save a lot by going smaller, because it's really it's like going from HD television to 4K. That's 4 times the resolution, right? Just to scale it up. So this is even more so. So I would love to. Reality shows me that it's very hard to get the support we need to make this, basically.
It's really surprising, because you think, when you look at like vehicles and stuff in 1/6 scale, the biggest issue most people have is space. So you'd imagine, people who collect 1/12, it's not such an issue. You think they jump at it.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing that you said, though. I think the difference is obviously, the market for this is people that are happy to, in this day and age, to be paying £300, £400, £500 for a layer, Han and Chewie going for 800, ridiculous. So the actual relative cost of this is not that massive. Whereas, I say, a Black Series, you're spending £20 on a figure, and then Joost says, right, okay, I can do the cockpit, but it's going to be £500-600. It's a massive, I can see the point there. People say they want
and it wouldn't be 500-600 pounds, but it would be a big difference. Yeah. So if you look at like the 1/12 scale Justice Mobile, that one with all the features is close to 1,200 to make in 1/6 scale. Of course, we're talking about 105 centimeters in length. And the 12 scale version, we can do nearly the same features for $400 because there's just a lot less material, and especially in the molds. And so of course there's a little less detail. We're still talking lights from the front and some lights in the cockpit. It can't be that detailed. So you're leaving some behind, but then again, for that price difference, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So based on that, extrapolating, I would say a cockpit like this would also be around $500 in 12 scale, and that's just massive compared to what you said, a Black Series figure. I'm afraid the market isn't there.
No.
At least in the very, very low volume that we do.
Yeah. In the past, you had mentioned that you didn't want to make another batch of these meditation dioramas, but I know you are offering custom one-time options. Here it says they come in at $999, shipping approximately $150, and you're looking for a dozen people to make this happen. How's that going on this piece?
So usually I don't revisit anything, but I've gotten so many requests that I asked the guy who does my prototyping, because they have this massive $100,000 SLA industrial grade printer, so it's really good quality. What would it cost if we do a dozen prints? So that is something we can handle, and I think we might be able to do that based on the feedback. However, the group seems to be divided because we scaled it down a little bit. This thing is still massive, but the actual thing has a 12-foot radius, so we're talking a 24-foot diameter. So we're talking a 4-foot diameter in 1/6 scale, and about half the people want to say, hey, if we're going to do one-off, let's do it 4 feet. And the other half says, well, this is big enough. So I think that's the biggest hurdle to take, to see how to fix that, how to do that. But I think we could get enough people together to do the dozen custom printed versions.
There's a comment here. Maybe you can speak on it. I have some experience with this. So Scott says, speaking as someone who ordered the 12 scale Tantive hallway, I felt the materials were more expensive than needed. 3D printing is so much cheaper in comparison for 12 scale. In my opinion, as someone that has worked with 3D prints, they're not the strongest material. They can be if you print them, insanely dense. But resin casting is just so much easier to finish, to work with, and it's a lot stronger. Is that something that you've seen in your experience versus 3D printing or resin casting? Is there any, what do you think about this?
Yeah, Scott, hi. I hear what you're saying. It's just funny that when we were at one of our suppliers a couple of years ago, we saw them extruding an aluminum profile. And I looked at my dad and I said, that looks almost like the profile of the Tantive hallway. And turns out it was the perfect size. We only need them to tweak a little bit. And so we could get true aluminum much cheaper than any alternative, resin casting, 3D printing, whatever. So it was just a bonus that people got really expensive, good material. But this was by far the cheapest we could produce it at a scale of more than a dozen pieces. So I don't think we could have done it any cheaper, I think.
Yeah, I've done
unless the only exception would be, like, there was this company did the space walls, they call it, on eBay. So that's basically Chinese injection molding, like you get a construction a kit. How would you call that?
Kit.
like a model kit, right? And so you can injection mold stuff for $1 as soon as you've paid off the molds, which usually run into the 5 figures. So higher volume, the cost goes down dramatically. But we're just in this really nasty gray area where you can't do 3D printing because it's not strong enough and it's quite expensive. But you couldn't do injection molding. So I hope that answers Scott's question.
Yeah, 3D printing is also a pain in the ass to finish, especially if you're doing PLA. Our monoliths,
even SLA,
each monolith took probably about 8 hours to sand perfectly smooth from a very, very fine print. Yeah, so I definitely can.
3D printing isn't there yet. So
especially for a surface like Tantive, which is perfectly smooth, it needs to be absolutely perfect.
And a lot of work will still have to go into that one for that very same reason. We're probably going to be using filler and sanding and all that sort of thing to get it good. So, yeah.
Bless your
I hope 3D printing gets better in the future.
Yeah. In my view, Joost, I mean, people, I would say people come to you because they want that quality. They know that you're using, quality pieces, and you don't mind paying that little bit extra. We can all go out and buy a picture to put on the back of our Detolfs. That's the cheapest option, and you're building up. So to have a piece of yours is as good as having a Grail figure. So you would, if I was buying a piece of yours, I would expect to be paying, for the best materials. So it's
you pay for what you get, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the
exactly.
day.
Yeah, and still everything we do is very much focused on cost. I mean, we run a business where right now the dollar is falling, and that's a major issue because we don't have any fat on the bones. But you're right. There is a minimal level of quality I'm willing to accept at the cost of price, and so I still want to. Basically, I want to have stuff that I can look at in my collection and say, yeah, I want that. I want to keep that in my collection. So there is that. Yeah.
I think this here, the 6-scale Hoth Rebel base floor palettes, pretty genius. $25, and they look great. I mean, because someone that has a Hot Toys figure that doesn't have your diorama could use this. Someone that has dioramas already could use this. I mean, this is. I think we talked about it the first interview we did, is buying things from you that you create that can be used for any number of projects. I think this is a really good idea. I could see someone buying this for like a Civil War diorama that they have in their collection. I mean, this is great.
Yeah. Speaking of which, as soon as we finish the extension kit for the cargo hold, we're going to be offering all those crates and stuff you find in the cargo hold as separate accessories, basically, as this is too. So all those Rebel and Imperial crap to fill up a display space is what we're going to be offering.
I think it'd be cool if you did some Kyber crystal containers. I know Rogue One figures are pretty hot right now. Everyone seems to want to buy them, and maybe making a set of those. The tanks have those big canisters, and then they also have the smaller ones. I think that'd be something pretty cool that a lot of people might like. And $25 for a set of 2, I mean, that's a really good price. So definitely props on that one.
Have you thought about doing kind of more small accessories and stuff like that as like an ongoing thing?
I've thought about it many times, Ian. It's just it's basically time as an issue, because I've got so many projects in the works. I've got like stuff I want to do, right? So yesterday, for the third time in a week, so I'm thinking this is some kind of way of the universe telling me to take a look at that, is the T1 from Terminator. Do you know what that is? I've seen all the movies, some of them several times. I didn't know what the T1 was. I Googled it, but that's a cool little tank.
It's the tank with the guns, right?
Oh, the kind of hang off the... Yeah, that would be cool.
See, that
where
would
you see neat. John Connor with the binoculars at the beginning there.
They're
kind of in the background, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's just a million of those little things I still want to do. But yeah, it's definitely on the list as soon as I get a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can do this full time next year, I can do that.
You also
Let's
put up
hope
on your Facebook group that you are slightly ahead of schedule on the land speeder and the cargo hold, and anyone that is fully paid up as of I think last Wednesday, they're going to be shipping very soon. So that's really good news for those people that are waiting. I know we know a few.
They're on their way. The first one has been delivered.
Hey,
Wow,
there you go.
nice.
Yeah, that's really
yeah.
good.
There's a neat little upgrade we did there. We got we learned to work with magnet systems. We needed that for the Batmobile and the cockpit, and so we retroactively put that in the second batch or the final batch of the land speeder. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Your Iron Scavenger also, you did make some updates on it. And I had a quick question. Are you doing the sewing for the jacket, or is that a third, another set of people that are doing those jackets?
Now I got Brian from Black Ops Toys hooked me up with the guys and girls who do that for him. Those can do a much better job than I could. So this is professional stuff. I
was going to say, damn, Joost can do it all.
Yeah.
Like, man,
Nope.
you got a sweatshop going on in your house.
Sewing machine out.
Yeah.
You
No.
also- Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're sweating the details on this. This is actually the third version of the exoskeleton in the next slide.
Yeah, I think you were mentioning that you're adding metal joints to this figure. And those look
Yeah. Now that's basically also because what you said, if you do 3D printing and you can't do big wall thicknesses, it's just very brittle. Now, when we go into production and we got everything fit together and we've got the molds, then we can go to a very sturdy material, but we're still going to stick with the metal joints the way things are looking right now. But with the 3D prototype parts to see how everything fits together, it's just it was a bloody nightmare and a bit of a delay there.
And it looks like these are kind of squared off in the joints. So are they ratchets, or do you have to unplug it and change the angle and put it back in, or is this actually like a fluid joint movement?
We're still, I can't say for the final version. We're still experimenting with what works best to support the weight versus getting the movement. We're not thinking taking it out and putting it back in, because that just didn't work with either the ratchet or maybe something with enough resistance to get fluid movement and just being able to pose it. But it's still too early to tell for that.
Gotcha.
With the jacket, Joost, do you know if is it real leather or is it a sort of? It is.
It is not pleather. This is real leather.
How thin is it?
Thin. Yeah, it is thin.
No, so we're massive indie fans, and there's always the search for the perfect jacket, and quite often they don't go with leather because they say they can't find one that's thin enough to look realistic at the 1/6 scale.
Yeah, but the pleather, it just starts to crack up and flake.
Yeah, it does.
So that's not an option, and I'm happy with the way this looks, and it's real leather. So yeah, we got it. I think yeah.
And what was the price on this figure?
$594.
That's a
dollars.
freaking amazing price.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is an amazing
Especially if you consider there's a dynamic flight stand, and the wingspan you see here is 120 centimeters, which is 4 feet.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
With joints and everything. So the rotors spin, they rotate. The wings are posable. So even the people who don't have 4 feet of display space, you can make it smaller, make it.
Cool.
So
how are you supporting that with you said about a flight stand? How does that connect in to the actual wings somewhere? Does it? Or
well, we're
obviously
going back and yeah. So it might just be a grabber like Hot Toys does. It might be somewhere. This is still something I would love, that you could connect it to the backpack where the wings are connected to. but that's turning out trickier than I thought.
Right.
So it's two. Yes, Red Wolf.
Yeah, Red Wolf
There's
says,
gonna
are
be
we
an
still
art
getting
box.
an art box with the Iron Scavenger? The answer is yes. Let's
Yes.
talk about the Batwing. Boba
Oh.
Fett 0820, very excited about that. You were at, according to this post, 49 out of 100. We needed to hit the goal for the 6-scale Batwing. Man, he made a petition website too. Man, my God.
Oh, I missed that.
That's awesome. And then one of our Facebook users says, pretty sad people couldn't back up their talk by signing up for the 12-scale Batmobile pre-order and committing to buy it. This craft is massive, isn't it, from the film? Yeah, I mean, this seems like it would be a huge piece.
I think that would be the biggest piece we've ever done. This is bigger than the 1989 Batwing we're working on. So
yeah,
I'm kind of scared if we hit 100.
You might have to say, we'll hit 1,000 next.
No.
This is, we've mentioned it a few times, the 12-scale Batmobile. You got some work in progress pictures here. Is that coming along pretty smoothly?
Yeah. I think I'll have... so we're working on a prototype now to see how everything fits together. And I'm doing the paint and the weathering on that. I think by next week, I should be able to have it close enough that I can show it. And according to the tracking this weekend, I will have the Mezco 112 scale tactical suit, which is a big Batman. So if that one fits, then we can pretty much fit anything in there. Mm-hmm. And then this morning, I had a meeting with the guy who helps me with the design, because this is so much smaller. But I do want some lights in the cockpit for a way to have light reflected through a tunnel, so that we can light at least 2 or 3 screens up in the cockpit from a distance, and not have to worry about very many LEDs and wires going through such a small space, and giving up, because it's always a trade-off. So then you would give up either realism or floor space for leg space for your Batman. So we're tinkering with that, but right now I'm confident we can do at least front lights, and maybe 1 or 2 lights in the cockpit is what we're going for. I'll have the prototype to show with the Mezco Batman sometime next week, or if not, then 1 week later. So that's pretty close. That will not have the electronics then, of course, because that will be the next step. But it's looking good. It's we've learned a lot from the 6-scale Batman to do a Batmobile, to see how everything will fit together, and the best way to break up the parts into not too many small parts, but make it movable. So on the 6-scale Batmobile, we could do actual quite thick metal axes and actual ball bearings inside the wheels. Wow. Learning that, we might be able to take some of that at the lower budget, at the smaller scale, into the 12 scale.
Boba Fett asks, Joost, since we have the Batmobile and the computer lab coming, any chance for the Batsuit Vault? I think we've talked about on the last stream that potentially might be something you would look into. But I know you said there might have been a third-party company that had made it. Sean says he'd love to see a Bacta tank in 6-scale. I would love to see,
be awesome.
The Rogue One Bacta tank, even just the tank itself. I think that would be an amazing display. Let's take a look here. So there's more pictures there of the 12th scale. These yellow and pink and blue, is this paint or is this mold making material?
No, that's for the molds, and then of course we're going to do a pink Batmobile, but that was a secret. No.
Oh my gosh. Mario asks, how's the 66 Batmobile going along? When is the pre-order cutoff? Thanks.
Okay, so the 1966 Batmobile, that was, it was the same story as the 6-scale Scavenger. The prototype you were looking at, that was a complete redo. We scrapped everything from the first generation design and prototyping. Same for the Batmobile. You probably saw the prototype we did around New Year's, and I just didn't like how it fit together. There was a huge panel gap issue. So basically, we scrapped all that, started a redesign, and then the COVID crisis hit, which really made the delay even longer. So I'm thinking in about 3 weeks. So next week, I'm hoping to finalize the first production pieces that ship out for the 6-scale Batmobile and the cockpit. Then the week after that, I want to spend most of my time finalizing the prototype, the first prototype for the 12 scale. And then the week after that, I will be dedicated to the Vulture and finalizing the model for the 66. So then that goes into prototyping. So that will be late summer until we see the next prototype, which means the pre-order cutoff it doesn't stop until I'm happy with the prototype. So I think you'll still have at least until August to do a pre-order. What is important though is when I'm happy with the cockpit and the 1/6 scale, but Justice Mobile, I'm going to have to sit around with my suppliers who do part of the casting and part of the electronics production and all that. So in about, I think 4 weeks from now is the cutoff date for those. And then I just have to do the material planning, the time planning, the cost planning. And I have to make a few extra because, of course, for service and all that sort of thing. But if you're serious about this, please know that the cutoff date for those is coming soon. Maybe, and now is a good time to mention that there are also a number of old designs that will not be coming back once they're sold out. So I'm talking about like the Emperor Throne Room, and after the last current run of the Tantive entryway, the white one, and the service corridor, those are going to be gone. I only have like 2 left of the carbon freezing chamber. We're not going to do that again. So a lot of the old stuff is going to be gone pretty soon too, and that's not coming back.
Let's take a look at some questions here. We'll get to the YouTube comment questions here in a second. But related to the interview questions that we asked on Ox, Eric Ruiz says he would love an entrance/exit ramp diorama from the Falcon. I know we touched on that a little bit on the last interview we had. Alfred also says, what has been the most challenging aspect of the Falcon cockpit build thus far?
Okay, for the cockpit build, well, obviously the lights. I mean, basically, how are you going to do that? And especially with the different colors and making them look like they're part of the same group. And if you get the standard LEDs, then you're stuck with whatever lenses are on there. So we ended up making custom lenses and just using white lights, white LED to shine from behind. So the lights was an issue, and just how do you do 150 LEDs several times?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot,
Yeah. And the other thing was, if you're working at that scale with it's close to 3 feet in length, 74 centimeters, and you got these you've got an arch and a diameter, and all those parts need to fit really tightly. Just small tolerance issues will have air gaps, and that will have light bleed. So that's those two were the biggest challenge for the build, I think.
Do you ever, once you're done and like you're like, all right, this is great, we're ready to ship, do you guys ever celebrate amongst your family? Like, you know, like what do you do to? Because I know they're so involved with the process as well. I think I've seen a few times your wife had commented on the Facebook page is like saying, "Oh, I'm a part of this in the team," and of course your father helps out. And I think time to time you've mentioned your sons help as well. How do you guys celebrate the completion of a big build like this?
by building more. Did you guys see the video of the Lego Falcon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great video.
Yeah. That was our celebration for all the work that they've done to help me out during the crisis when my dad had to stay home. And sushi is another thing.
Oh, sushi is so good.
Yeah. So I wanted to show this to Eric. Let's see if we can't.
Yeah, let me
make
solo
that
cam
visible.
you.
Can you see this, Eric?
Oh, that is the entry ramp. Look at that.
That is, yeah.
Eric,
Those are original blueprint designs. This is the design for the actual ramp system.
Mhm.
And I have this original
Here we are.
blueprints. So
Breaking news.
it's safe to say I've started. Let's see if I can give you one more.
Ooh.
We've even started the digital sketching phase.
Because the ramp would be super cool.
Let's see. So I'll give you a bit of a scoop here, but we're.
Look at that.
This is just testing out the design and the detail. So.
My God. That's crispy. That is crispy.
Very, very cool.
Tony Ducker asks, what material is the main Falcon cockpit body made from? Is it polystone or resin? I just want to get an idea for the full weight of this.
Dreams. It's made
it
from
is-
pure dreams.
From collector's tears.
and unicorn whatever.
Corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very flexible resin that we're using. Now, flexible isn't the right translation. English isn't my first language. Elastic is the so it's got some elasticity, which means anything that bends doesn't break. But it is solid. So if you have a standard collectible, unless it's a statue, it's ABS plastic. It's injected molded and it's hollow, because injection molding, you can't do great wall thicknesses. The piece that we make, the pieces are much more solid. So the 6-scale Batmobile is 30 pounds. The cockpit about the same. So pretty solid pieces.
Red Wolf asks, do you think you'll hit the September release for Iron Scavenger or closer to the end of this year? Potentially COVID-related issues and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely end of the year. COVID didn't help. That definitely slowed it down, but complete redesign did the rest. So I'm sorry. The rest is pretty good. I mean, most of them on average only 4 to 6 weeks delay. We managed to keep the delay down pretty good, but the scavenger is just the COVID plus the redesign means New Year's around there.
Danny Lee asks, will there be a lot of assembly needed to put the Falcon cockpit together out of the box?
None.
What a guy. What a guy.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is not true. Maybe you'll have to put the seats in the holes.
I think we can.
Yeah, so
I'm sure people will
Yeah.
that.
and those are magnetic now. That's another upgrade we did.
That's fantastic. You just,
Beautiful.
one of our Facebook users asked, will you be making Ray's Speeder or the Snow Speeder? I think we touched on those last episode, but maybe you can give people a refresher on that.
I want a snow speeder.
Yeah, snow speeder is a must. I want a snow speeder. So the thing is, do I make a snow speeder first, or do I start the TIE Fighter first? That's what I haven't decided yet.
I would
The
go
TIE,
Snow
how
Speeder.
big is the TIE Fighter?
It's big. But I was thinking for the TIE Fighter, you could do the cockpit as a true scale version.
Yep.
And then offer the wings for the people who want the ultimate.
That's a great
So-
idea.
Yeah, because it is quite
It's
much.
very doable, and it's if you do it flat packed, and there's segments anyway. So I've been thinking, I'm already thinking of how am I going to do this. I think for the tie, the solar panels, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
there might be some potential to make it smaller, at least for shipping. to make
What's
it
the
modular that
diameter
way.
on one of those, Joost? Fully, how high do they?
I think those are 4 feet.
Yeah, they're massive,
Two?
aren't they?
Yeah, they're massive. Might be
I
even
think-
bigger. Might be.
I think that's
Yeah.
such a great idea to do the TIE cockpit as its own thing. Because having built the Bandai model kits, I don't know if those are super accurate, but I remember the cockpit for the Interceptor, the TIE Fighter, and Vader's TIE Advanced were pretty similar. And I mean, just having a diorama that they could put Vader in, or the Rogue One TIE Pilot in, or the Sideshow TIE Pilot in. I mean, that's pretty crispy. Good idea.
Yeah. 'cause
Now
I
take
suppose
that
with the
idea
Snowspeeder-
a little bit further. Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say, because if you did the Snowspeeder, your option for that really is just Luke. But with the TIE Fighter, like Zach says, you've got options to put like Vader, the different pilots, all sorts in there.
That's right.
So,
Dak,
yeah, it
Dak
makes
faces
sense.
backwards, so you wouldn't really see his face anyway.
But
You can see which one
if
I
you
want.
think about it, if this thing is a success, so the TIE Fighter is a success, and you say the cockpits are pretty similar, which I think they are, why not do the Vader wings as a separate option?
Addition.
Yeah.
Because it almost looks like on the model kit, the cockpit plugs into the back where the hyperdrive is and all that stuff. I mean, that would be freaking awesome. I mean, so many people love the A New Hope Vader, and being able to plop that into something like that, that'd be pretty special.
Yeah. So why would your parents call you Facebook user? That's just cruel. Anyway, Facebook user.
It was an awkward Christmas.
The Snowspeeder is coming. The Snowspeeder is coming. Period. Because I think it's a cool design, and I want it. So that's all the criteria you need right there. Plus, it's a manageable size. It's like it's only slightly longer than the Landspeeder and about as wide as it is long. So we're talking
85, 90 centimeters, something like that, is it?
Tops 85, I think. 82 by 85, something like that. So that's that. In my world, that's manageable.
Yeah. Put me down for one, Joost, definitely.
Yeah, so I want that one. So it's only a matter of, do I start the TIE Fighter first or the Snowspeeder first? I always thought I'd do the Snowspeeder first, but I just love pleasing people, and I think I would please most people to start by starting with a TIE Fighter and offering the cockpit.
And the other issue is, as you say, you've got lots of options with Vader or the TIE pilots. With the Snowspeeder, thinking about it commercially, there is only the Sideshow Pilot Luke, Snowspeeder Pilot Luke, which goes for ridiculous money now, and people can't get them anyway. If you were to launch that, it will probably the sales would be affected by people's ability to get a hold of that figure. I think. I mean, I'm lucky to have a Elvis 1976 custom one, which is beautiful, and but I think you got to look at it, from a commercial point of view, and until Hot Toys bring one out, it's difficult to get.
Yeah.
I know it's not as flexible, but it'd be cool to see a Kylo Ren TIE silencer cockpit. Ooh, I'd love that. I would love that.
Which is the TIE silencer?
That's the one he uses in The Last Jedi, but I think, maybe I could be totally wrong here, but I thought it was similar to the cockpit of the one he uses in the third film. Again, I could be totally wrong there.
Yeah, so that was what I was wondering too. Is it 8 or 9? Anyway.
Yeah. Boba Fett asks, is the Arkham Knight Batmobile still possibly on the list?
Yeah, hang on, Boba Fett, because there's still a question I didn't answer. He wanted to know about the Snowspeeder, but he also asked about Race Speeder.
Yes.
I had this question before, and I'm still waiting on someone who has access to the actual files used for the movie. If I do get them, I'm gonna make it, because you've got the perfect replica from the movie. So Race Speeder, I'm gonna say definitely maybe. But first, Snowspeeder, TIE Fighter, I think, even though that's because such a different price range, it might be different audiences. But I don't want to overload the collectors, so it's also a pacing thing because I've got a short list of stuff that I want to do, or I think that's a good idea. I mean, can you see? I mean, it's a lot. Come on,
There we go.
pick it up.
There
So
we go.
yeah, Admiral. I mean, anything from Admiral Akbar to Ray Speeder to an ATST. I mean, this is all stuff I want to do. It's time, and I need the money to be able to finance it, and I can't do 10 projects at the same time because you guys wouldn't be able to support us if we did. So
Yeah.
next year.
To keep up.
Danny Lee says, actually, let's get to Boba Fett's question. Is the Arkham Knight Batmobile still possibly on the list?
I had that as the definite next one after the 1966 until I saw the size. That made me doubt if...
Isn't it pretty massive?
It
is
fucking huge.
Huge. Yeah, what you said.
Yeah.
I mean, I was ready to just blindly go there because I've gotten that request a lot. But so there's two factors into play. So one is the size, which means that a lot of people either can't afford it or just don't have the room for it. Mm-hmm. And then as an alternative, Hot Toys teased Clooney, Batman, and Robin. Mm-hmm. So that made that Batmobile a very cool option to do
with
next.
all the lights in the back panel.
Yeah, so I mean, I love doing the Batmobiles. So you guys were excellent on the Justice Mobile with the support. So the 1966, I was expecting more, but that's less, but good enough. Mm-hmm. So there is going to be a next Batmobile, and I'm just, it's for me, Boba, it's a toss up between the Arkham Knight one, if it's viable, and the Batmobile for the Clooney Batman. So what do you guys think?
It's tricky because I think I like the Arkham stuff better than Clooney Batman. So
True.
For me, the Arkham stuff would be.
But looking at that
really
figure,
cool.
do you think it could fit in that cockpit? I mean, it looks like it doesn't articulate very well to get in the seated position.
The
Arkham Knight Batman? Yeah.
That's the tricky thing. I mean, and plus, like you said, the size of it, because the Arkham Knight Batmobile has 2 extra seats in the back that fold out.
Shit.
That he puts like Poison Ivy and whoever he takes prisoner or whatever, he sticks them in the back there. It's an absolute beast.
Yeah,
an absolute beast. I mean, it would be super impressive. And I think I'd go more for the Arkham, because the Arkham, I really like the design of a lot of the Arkham stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Their designs are really good on pretty much everything that they do. Yeah, for me it would be Arkham.
Just to clarify that, it's the Val Kilmer one, isn't it? Batman Forever, third movie.
Not Clooney. Is it the Val Kilmer one?
Very different cars. Yeah.
Okay, but those are both very skeletonized, light.
Yes, they are. They are. Yeah.
Similar type. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Similar in design. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Kilmer Batman, of course, because there were the nipples on the suit.
That's it. Yeah. He Clooney had them as well. Kilmer started the nipple trend.
And then it got killed the next episode. Anyway, but yeah, so if you do the Arkham thing, we're talking about somewhere between 4 and 5 feet, easy, probably closer to 5 feet.
Where are you putting that in?
And then, and then
on the drive,
so
by the looks of it.
It has to be somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if it's viable. That's it.
I think it is. Right. It's like you say, the size, the cost. Mm-hmm. It's just. I mean, if cost wasn't an issue, just looking around, like, where would I put it? Like, it's massive.
And you really want it. So it's not. I think I can find plenty of people who want it, but then both afford it and
that's the
have
thing.
The space.
Yeah,
it's a very small area in the Venn diagram.
Yeah,
3 different things. Yeah.
breaking news, Ian, speedy post service resuming for the United Kingdom and the United States from TNS. It's pretty big news.
Yeah, cool.
It would be super handy if I ordered anything, but yeah.
TNS, what is
TNS? Is like a third-party supplier for like the young rich figures, like anything third-party they usually carry. But I've had like 4 or 5 figures that I paid off that can't ship yet because they just literally can't ship it to my address.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're a good company.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
They used to do Hot Toys, but they stopped. There was some sort of falling out there, I think, wasn't there? Yeah.
There's a few questions here. Maybe we can just touch on one more. Ian asks, sorry, Joost joined a bit late. Do you have a rough estimate on when the Falcon Deluxe cockpit will be shipped?
The very first one next week or the week after. But basically, the way we work is we make a couple of production samples. I don't know, like 4 or 5, to make sure that the one-off isn't a fluke, but that everything fits together the way we want. And then we order the bulk of the batch that we built with different suppliers to keep the cost low and build it all at once. So for the very, very first orders who support us for a long time, those will get those first samples, and then the rest is probably around August. So Ian would be in August too.
Okay, very cool.
Pretty good. Yeah.
We wanted to thank Joost for coming on tonight, tonight, depending where you're at. Always good to have you. If you ever have any news, like I said, you're always welcome to come on the show. I know, obviously, you had some big news this episode that you wanted to talk about. Scott, this is actually a really good question. Let's get to this question here. Scott says, if more 6-scale Star Trek figures get released, any thought to bridge stations / captain's chairs? That's a great question.
Or a runabout.
Oh, don't count on QMX. They're a bunch of...
Hasn't there been? Because I haven't looked at that. I've had
there's been a captain's chair from QMX.
Exactly. And so I just don't do whatever. I usually don't touch what's been done before.
Yeah.
And I've looked at the bridge because I've had that question before, but that thing also is quite massive.
Yeah. And the problem is that, I was intent on collecting the original bridge crew, but then QMX have just made an absolute arse of that line, and there's no guarantee that, they'll release any more. And that's obviously, again, would affect, I think, the demand for that. People might want a Picard chair.
All right.
But
again,
long enough. Let's add that.
I don't know what the numbers would be like on that.
Yeah. Picard chair. So I think like you said, Star Trek is tricky. It's large space, or it has been done, or the figures are crap. So that's the trick there. That's so going back to another question, the gunner bay, we're talking about where the TIE fighter battle was in episode 4 in the Falcon. That's what you're talking about, right? A question.
Yes.
I love anything Falcon, so probably after the ramp. Yeah.
I'm telling you, in like 3 years,
I was gonna say
those who have put into every single project, actually, it's like a build-a-figure. Like
build a Falcon. Yeah,
build a Falcon. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man. Next time we do an episode, someone's gonna be like, "Hey, can you make that little thing where Luke and everyone hid in the thing?" And then the next thing, by the time it's all over, you're gonna have a whole 6-scale Falcon.
Did you actually work out what the overall length would have been at that scale, Joost?
No. I've seen the picture and I thought it was scary. Have you seen the pictures of the Hot Toys one?
Made one, didn't they? Yeah.
But what is that?
I remember looking at a photo of someone setting it up, and when you've got a full-grown man standing next to it, you kind of go, "Oh, fuck me, that's big."
Yeah. But that's like an entire room filled with the model. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it would be awesome, but I think Hot Toys had it on display once, and it was huge. I mean, there's no way that they would make that.
No.
We can dream.
We can dream, though. Let's give a shout out to our patrons. They keep our channel going, along with our sponsors: Scott Bradley, Ben Porter, Griffin Campbell, Sean Fear, Ian CB, Renee Mendez, Dan Lee, Deanie Martin, Stephen Krett, Jason Nelson, Big Fern, Eric Ruiz, Mario Cortez, Stephen Percha, and Sean Yahtzee. We are doing this is our Patreon info here. If you guys want to check us out, just search Collecting Weekly on Patreon. We're doing a bonus acrylic charm for anyone that subs to the $15 tier while supplies last. I think we have like 30 odd of these, so while supplies last. And we are doing a very special cause this month for Pride Month. We have a t-shirt on our TeePublic store. If you buy this shirt, we will donate the commission that we get from the shirt, and we'll match it to the Pride Center of San Antonio, which is a really good cause. Again, Joost, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. But do you guys have anything you wanted to add?
I need a 1/12 Ecto 1. I've just got the.
Isn't there?
I've just got the Mezco 1/12 set in, and there is no 1/12 Ecto 1 on the market. Somebody was going to make one, but the apparently the estimate was way too high, so it got scrapped. But
what kind of estimate were you talking? Were they talking?
Like $700-800.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's twice. Yeah, that's twice the reasonable price.
Scott Allen says yes to the 12th scale Ecto 1. No
Yay, here we go. We're starting a list up.
That was a quick
We got two.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
We're already 1/50th of the way there. Joost, did you have any shout outs you wanted to give, or any last things you wanted to mention?
Well, I think I'm so bad at this. I would never. I would suck at awards shows. I always forget. But yeah, I want to just thank my wife and kids and my dad for making my dreams possible, and you guys at the community. Yeah. So everyone who's worked on this, Bruce, Mike Studelberg, and we got Mike Hall, and so there's one more guy, but he asked to remain anonymous. He helped me with the packaging and so this is a community effort. I can't do this alone. Not without, well, first of all, the trust from the community. Just trust me with your money, and to make sure that I deliver, and not only deliver, but deliver what you want. That I never take that for granted. That's why I keep tweaking, adding, and pushing the envelope. Mm-hmm. And then I've got a wonderful family helps me, and it's just the final shout out is to Uncle Ben up in heaven, who would have loved this. The very first collector I ever knew from this, and he got me into Star Wars, so I owe him that everything.
Yeah.
And so
Joost is the man. True words not spoken.
Yeah. And you got 3 for Ecto 1 now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and thank you guys. I mean, I love coming on here, and I love that you give me the time of day. And then even if I'm not on the show and I'm listening and I hear my name, I usually walk the dog and I go, "Yay!" It's so cool. So
we could talk to you for hours.
Yeah,
because the stuff you're doing is just on another
level. We'd all love
right?
every single piece you've done, but the time and the space and the money, we just dream of them. But yeah.
So as a last shout out, thanks to you guys, Ian, Pete, Zach, and I even forgive you, Zach, for not having this very cool graphic you have.
Yeah, I felt bad. So those first two. Actually, let me pull up this picture real quick while I have everybody here. So the first two, Zach Venable made for us, and he was so nice to do that. And then we were like, for the Patreon, if you are in the top tier, if you want it, because not everyone really wants to have that, I was like, we will make you we'll make it for you. And so to this point, only one person has taken us up on that offer, and so when you said that, I was like, crap, it's too late for me to ask
of course not
to make this.
It was just but it really looks very cool. It caught my eye immediately. So
but we did have someone that did make the edit for you, one of our great listeners here. This is going to be the cover art, I think.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that is cool.
I don't know how they made that, but that's freaking hilarious. I tried to make this myself one time for Dean, and I gave up after 3 hours. I was like, nope, this is just not gonna happen.
Because how do you do this and get it so crisp? I mean, I do a lot with Photoshop and Illustrator too, but this is some quality work, Zach.
Yeah, and this
So
is
shout
not
out to-
this is not my work. I think this is Red Wolf here. He says I made you one, Joost. Check it out. on Facebook."
Thanks, man. I
Red
really
Wolf,
appreciate
super
it.
cool.
Red Wolf, send me the graphic if you can, just of Joost by himself. Send it to me on Facebook, and I'll plop it into the main graphic if you can. That would be awesome. But yeah, I died laughing, but it was like right before we were going to record, and I didn't have time to update all the assets and everything. But man, this is hilarious. But yeah, and like I said,
Right.
anytime you want to come on, you're welcome to come on our show or OFAC. I think we would love to have you, and, and
definitely.
we love it as well. So.
Cool.
Scheduling wise, Ian and Pete, I think you said you're going to take this week off because we're doing this interview here.
Yeah.
You'll be back not next Thursday, but the following. And
Yeah,
getting
2
back on
weeks for
schedule.
Yeah,
So
episode 20. Yep.
congratulations, guys. And Joost, if you ever find yourself with a production sample that you might not need, you can always hit up your boy.
I think we've cleared that up,
Heard ya.
Zach. I think that, you know.
Yeah, before we started recording, Ian's like, well, it's actually cheaper to ship it to the England. I'm like, oh, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But all right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for watching. I think we had at one point 20 people watching live at once, which is pretty crazy because it's
Brilliant.
2-3 o'clock p.m. in the United States. But yeah, I'm Zach.
I'm Ian.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Joost.
Catch you guys on the next episode.